の道は勝利へのビクトリーロードだ。覚悟は決めたか。
Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Episode. Here we're doing series The Unported Playlist Hall of Fame, where I reach back into the channel's archives and pick out games for November and December, which I consider to be some of the best arcade games ever made that have still never seen a home port. If you can't tell already, today we're playing Sega Race TV on the Sega Lindbergh, and this was Yu Suzuki's last game ever made for Sega before he left the company. And if you know the name Yu Suzuki, you know he makes absolute bangers, and Sega Race TV is no different. I've been kind of expecting this to actually come over to a Yakuza game, but as of yet it has not appeared. Before you get too far involved, though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, you got a Patreon link down below as well. But Sega Race TV is just classic straight up Sega racing in the best way possible. It kind of feels like a mix between Crazy Taxi, Daytona USA, and OutRun 2 all in one package. It's got a huge amount of personality, it's got 5 incredible courses, and every single lap they're going to show you something new. This almost feels like Sega trying to take on Mario Kart outside of Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, and it just 100% works. This game is fun from start to finish. It's absolutely fast and fluid. You've got a nice drifting mechanic, a ton of different boost and turbo options. It just has everything you want out of an arcade racing game, because it was made by Sega. You know it's going to be a straight up 10 out of 10, and that's why I love this game so much, and I take every opportunity I can to talk about it, because it's just not a game that I hear many people mention whatsoever when they talk about some of the best Sega arcade racing games of all time. This deserves to be in that conversation. I absolutely love the Sega Lindbergh arcade hardware as well. It's got those classic Sega colorways, that bright blue sky, everything that makes you look at a game and instantaneously think this is a Sega product. Every single course in this game is intelligently designed. They've got such great turns, different straightaways where you can use those turbos, different obstacles. You are going to be thinking on your feet every single second of this game. If you want to see a first place finish and grab that checkered flag, you need to understand what every single course asks of you. But I love, even in the sky there, that looks like a Seaman balloon. It looks like it has the face of Seaman. There's so many different nods to different Sega games in this if you just look around close enough. And being able to do something like jump this bridge here, have the camera rotate 360 degrees, and bounce into the finish line, it's just an absolute fun time. If I didn't bump the back of that opponent there, I would have been able to get the first place finish. And when I mean you need to drive a clean line to get a first place in this game, I 100% mean it. And like pretty much every other Sega arcade racing game around, the first person view is just that much faster and that much more intense. Getting a good drift, trying to navigate around your opponents, grabbing a turbo boost pad is just so much fun. But whether you're in third person or first person, Sega Race TV just has absolutely everything I want out of an arcade racing game. It's over the top, the physics feel like the real world except amplified by like 50%, you've got incredible drifting, and I love that every single lap something changes. You even have to go through some ice physics there, kind of giving you that platformer Mario feel, except in a Sega racing game where you're drifting on ice. This game just 100% works. From the graphics to the gameplay to the characters to the cars to the camera work, there's nothing about Sega Race TV that I would change whatsoever. The only thing I would do is maybe give it a few more courses and definitely give it a home port, because this today is still locked to arcades and I have not seen a cabinet for this in a very long time. But if you know where there's one in the US, leave me a comment down below, because I would be curious to know what is out there. But you'll see here as we go past rolling boulders and we try to jump around these little divots to get that turbo, your racing line matters so much in Sega Race TV, almost more so than OutRun 2 or Daytona USA 2 or 3, because there are obstacles to deal with. And you'll see as we come through this mine, we have these glowing hot rocks just bouncing at us. You are going to be competing not only against the course and not only against your AI opponents, but actual obstacles in the game as well, which is a fun little extra look at racing mechanics in a Sega arcade racing game. But don't use your turbo in the wrong spot or you will flip your vehicle, and doing that is absolutely a guarantee you're not going to see first place. But this game also has a super fun soundtrack, so go ahead and listen for 45 seconds. I'll come back and show you a lot more courses and tell you why this game is a total hidden gem.
に進出です。 さあ登録しましょう。イエーイ。
Awesome soundtrack, and you might notice that some of the voice lines do stutter a bit. That's because I'm playing this on Teknoparrot, and it does have a few issues in the audio department, but gameplay-wise you'll be 100% fine. I'm definitely hunting an original PCB for this game because I want to add Sega Race TV to my collection, but as we move on to the next course, again, just look at all of the vibrancy in the image and everything you get to look at. There's all of these different Jumbotron screens, there's different things in the background, a giant Ferris wheel. It just makes you want to look at these sidelines because every square inch is covered with something fun to see. Unfortunately, you should just be looking at your racing line because otherwise you're going to go into the wall. You shouldn't be trying to do that in a racing game. And of all the games I featured on the channel that are unported and never brought home, I would put Sega Race TV in the top 5 games I would love to see get an official release. This is Sega dialing up the intensity in arcade racing 2 and 11 and just absolutely running with it, and they do a spectacular job. This is the type of game that absolutely everyone should have an ability to play, whether it's in a Yakuza arcade game or whether Sega brings it to modern consoles and maybe Steam, but I really don't expect that whatsoever. I think the best odds of ever being able to actually play this game at home outside of Teknoparrot is either buying an original arcade PCB or maybe if Sega adds it to a Yakuza game in the future, because it seems like the Yakuza series is the last hope for getting some of Sega's best arcade games ported to a home console, even if it's in a second video game. And honestly, I'll take what I can get when it comes to Sega arcade games we never got. But just look at the intensity again on display here. It's just going like 200 miles an hour the entire time. The screen is blurring, you're ramming your opponents, and if you do everything right, you can get a first place, and if you run into that explosive ball at the end, you end up not being able to do it. The last lap is going to be so crucially important to every single race, and once you learn the courses more and get better at them, you will start getting those first place finishes. But Sega is the absolute king of arcade racing games. I love everything they do, and Sega Race TV is basically a grab bag of the best things Sega ever did. You get the fun drifting of OutRun 2, you get the absolute crazy over-the-top intensity of something like Daytona 2, you get the jumps of something like Crazy Taxi. It just takes the best of what Sega does and puts it all back together to give you such an incredible experience. You have incredible graphics, music, handling, everything here is just perfect, and of course it is a Sega arcade racing game, so you know the handling is going to be spectacular. This is the type of thing that if you do have a wheel for your PC with force feedback, you're going to have a better time, but you can 100% play this with something like an Xbox Series X controller and still be able to drift and turn and do everything you need. If you win a race or if you lose a race, it comes down to your talent and nothing else whatsoever. These are just really fun hot laps in which you get to bounce across everything, ram cars off the road, and just have a blast. And do utilize those turbos. You don't just use them to gain speed. You can knock your opponents out, flip them out from in front of you, and pass them all at the same time by slowing them down. So there is a lot of strategy in this game, not just in the racing line, but when to use those boosts and when to absolutely destroy your opponent. So it's got like 10% burnout vibes in there as well. But again, this is just what Sega does so well, and that's why I did an entire retrospective on Sega racing games. This is my favorite Sega genre of all time. Sure, I love the House of the Dead and I love light gun shooters, but the one thing Sega does better than everyone else in my opinion is the arcade racing game. And this game, even in the attract sequence, just has so much personality and wild cutscenes. Sega Race TV is the type of game you play and you have a smile on your face the entire time you're enjoying it. It's fast-paced, it's fluid, it's got incredible handling, great tracks. There is nothing that this game does that I can critique whatsoever. The only complaint I have about it is it never got a home console port, and that is why I'm putting it on Unported Playlist Hall of Fame, and it is the first game in this series that I'm showing you. But I'm going to have 7 other unported arcade games that I consider to be some of the best arcade games of all time up on the series. But leave me a comment down below and tell me if you ever played Sega Race TV and what do you think about it, because to me, this is every bit as good as Daytona, Sega Rally, Crazy Taxi, OutRun, or OutRun 2 could ever be, and the over-the-top sense of scale and just wildness of it makes it one of my favorite Sega arcade games ever made. But short of that, we are done. Watch the little bit rest of this attract sequence, and I'll see you next week for more Hall of Fame, and of course I'll have the rest of the videos throughout the week as well. But take my word for it, don't skip Sega Race TV, you'll just be missing out. Bye-bye.
Get it on when I sing the poor man's blues. 登録しましょう。